Hi, welcome to the coaching game. This is the first show of 2022, and I am so thrilled to have my guest, Barbara Kenyon, on. Hey, Barbara.
Hi, everybody. A pleasure to be on with you, Laurie.
Oh, what a thrill. What a thrill. And even though we've said the new year has kind of been a little hectic starting out, we're going to hang in there because Barbara has written, co-authored, I guess, this marvelous book called Fire Up Your Life Now. 25 Secrets for Creating the Life You Really Want. So we thought, hey, what would be a better time to do that than the beginning of the year? And first of all, figure out what kind of life you want and get it going. And she has so many good tips on that. So Barbara, I welcome you, and we're gonna share as much of you as we can with the audience because you have such great things to tell them. If I had to ask you, what would be from your book? What would be your favorite tip, or the one that you find that you use the most? And then I'll tell you which one I use the most.
Excellent question. It's hard to pinpoint my favorite one. May I mention how this book came about?
Oh, please, yeah.
Okay, I think I'd like to start there. Alan and I, my husband, created Kenyon Coaching 20 plus years ago. And at that time, he said, we ought to send out a free motivational tip via email every Monday morning and call it Fire Up Your Week. Just a little 30-second shot in the arm. I love the idea, and I've always been moved by great quotes. And he was brilliant at writing these things. So we launched Fire Up Your Week. In the beginning, there were a few people that read it, like my mom and dad and my sister and a couple of friends here and there. And that was our subscriber list. But eventually we spread it out to other friends, other clients. And today we are still sending that thing out 20 years later. And we have people from many time zones around the world that receive it.
It's the highlight. It's the highlight of my Sunday night. I always look for it because it's always something great, and it's always something that'll get you through the week. I love it. But carry on. Yeah, it's a great.
Well, there's a testimonial right there. So after a number of years of writing these things, and we would receive emails almost weekly from one person or another, somebody we didn't even know, and they would say, "How did you know I needed to hear that this morning?" And the answer was, and continues to be, because we needed to hear it. So, we figure if we need it, somebody else probably does as well. And after a number of years of having great success with Fire Up Your Week, we decided there was a book in there. So that's how this book came about. Fire Up Your Life Now, 25 Secrets for Creating the Life You Really Want. We picked out 25 of our best messages. And we also kept the book very simple. We have a family with very short attention spans. So we wanted to keep each chapter about 3 pages so we wouldn't lose them halfway through that chapter. Mm-hmm. And that's how it came about. So I've come full circle to your question. Which one would be my favorite? At any given moment, it would be a different one. But the one thing how we started the book was a quote. And I'd like to read that quote because that pretty much sums up my feeling about this whole book. Mike Dooley. He says, the number one reason most people don't start what they want to start is because they think their simple little efforts won't even dent the mountain they wish to move. But little do they know, that's exactly how the mountain was formed. So I love that quote, and we have different hints of that quote throughout the book. A lot of times people don't start things because of fear. I heard another quote recently, everything we want in life is on the other side of fear. And I think that's true. Wow. So I think I'll go with that today in answer to your question. That was a long answer to a very short question. Secret number 5, fear. And recognizing what's keeping you from doing what you really want to. Another quote that I love is Eleanor Roosevelt's quote, do the thing you fear the most, and the death of fear is certain.
I've been following that quote for so many years, and people go, that's so dangerous. And it's like, well, I'm not going to, run into the middle of a train or something like that. But if I find myself hesitating from something that I really want, and it's just fear, that, irrational fear or something that I've conjured up, then I'm going to go for it if I can. But it takes a while. You know what I find? It takes a while for you to realize, because in your head, you rationalize, this makes sense, and this is why I shouldn't do it. And then when you get down to the nitty gritty, finally, it's like, oh, it's because I'm afraid. But it takes a while to figure that out. So yeah, I'd go with that one. I like that one too, fear.
And yet, to add on to what you're saying, Laurie, it also takes courage. I do a lot of dating coaching. It's one of my favorite specialties. And I know that every client that hires me initially, whether they are in their 30s, 50s, 70s, 82, my oldest client for dating coaching, the fear of that first date is so scary that it keeps a lot of people from pursuing it. And I said, just do it. Get yourself through it. It doesn't have to be a whole long drawn out thing. Meet somebody for a Coke for 1 hour and then exit stage left. And it's over. And it's just amazing how once you just do that simple little thing, and that's true with anything in life, once you take that first step.
I think Brene Brown is the one who says, courage is fear walking. It's like, that's it. Just do it. Start walking and you'll get through it. One of my favorites is get off your butts. And it's not B-U-T-T, it is B-U-T-S. And it's like, and as I was saying, and when you find yourself not doing something, your mind is so, I'm always amazed at how tricky the mind is, how it can rationalize almost anything to what you're thinking. And I'm not sure if I've really come up with a concrete way, but you have to nip it. You have to like say, wait a minute, I think I might be on the wrong track here. I think I might be distracting myself or deluding myself. But when you get off your butts, it's like, don't make excuses. It's like, just go instead of but, go, okay, I'm afraid. And I'm going to take the first step, not the whole thing, just the first step, whatever you have to do. Do you have any further information on getting off your butts?
I do. You just mentioned about your mind, and it's a powerful tool that will work either for you or against you. Your brain will answer any question you ask it. When people say to themselves, why am I so stupid? Their brain will give them a million reasons why they're stupid. Yeah. My mother used to say that. Why am I so stupid? And your brain will help you out, whatever you ask. So if you just flip that question around and ask yourself, why am I so capable?
Yeah.
Your mind will answer that question for you too, and give you reasons and examples of how you have been capable. So if there's nothing else you take away from this interview today, it's learn to ask the right questions of yourself. And that'll also get you off your butts, because again, fear plays a big part in why people don't take action.
Fantastic advice. Because again, like I say, the mind is tricky, and at first you don't catch on, but finally, when you do catch on, don't sit around and browbeat yourself and go, oh, why am I so stupid? It's like, wow, look, I caught on and no more. I'm going to change the course of this whole thing right now, because now I'm on to you. And fear is such a powerful, underlying, subtle hesitator, it just really blocks so much of the things that you do. So
the acronym for fear: false evidence appearing real.
Yeah.
And so many times, this would be a good thing for people to journal about if they are journalers, is write down what you were fearing and then write down the outcome and how scary was it after you look back. It's never, I think of that when I go for a mammogram. I'm just all freaked about that, and breast cancer is so prevalent where I live. And I'm totally freaked out. And then I walk out of there 10 minutes later with the results right there, and it's fine. And I think, whew, what were you so worried about? But
and well, let me take it a little further, because I used to do that too, and I would actually feel sorry for the people who had to stay. It's like, oh my God, I'm so lucky. One day I had to stay, and it's like, your fears are answered. It's like, okay, here it is. But then what you have to do is just move it on to the next step. It's like, okay, so where are we going with this? This is not a good thing, but where are we going to go? So even if your fears are answered, that doesn't mean that's the end. It means, okay, now you got to find a way to get out of this, or a way to alter this, or a way to treat this, or whatever you have to do. So but no, that's but some people don't even go. There's some people don't go because they are so afraid.
I know. Another quote that pops in my head, and one of my coach instructors used to use it all of the time. He said, learn to say, that was then, this is now. When you're trying to work out a lifestyle or a way of thinking that isn't serving you well. I used to be really afraid of, and then fill in the blank, but that was then, even if it was 5 minutes ago, and this is now. So
Yeah.
do over.
Yeah, well, and and that kind of contradicts the great philosopher Dr. Phil, who says the best way to indicate what your past is the best way to indicate what's happening now. And it's like, I so disagree with that. It's like, and that's not quite how he says it, but and it's like, no, that it is that's a learning. If you can consider almost everything you do a learning lesson and a step in the journey, it's smooth sailing. And if it's bumpy sailing, at least you have the sail and the boat, and you can get through it. So yeah, that was then, and this is now. That's a great quote. And one of my favorite quotes that I'm working on this year is, feel free to steal it, is expectations are the theft of joy. And I did that Christmas Day. It was like, okay, I'm thinking this is, and we had the normal, celebrations and everything. But then I was expecting, okay, afterwards, we're going to do this and this. And it really never happened. My significant other went to bed and my friends left. And it was like, oh, I can watch, something on Netflix that I wanted to watch. And I'm going, oh, no, but I should be mad. And it was like, no, but you know what? I really like Netflix and I really never get to watch it. So, but the expectations can just ruin whatever you're doing, just by saying, well, this has to happen and I expect this to happen by this time. So I'm working on that. It's like not no expectations, but just enjoy the journey, and there's things to be enjoyed, even if things don't turn out the way you want them to.
Absolutely. Well, as Dr. Phil would also say, and how's that working for you?
Exactly. So far, so good. Yeah, he has good quotes too. I'll give him that. He's got some.
He does. And to piggyback on what you're saying, another expression that I learned in coach training was AFGO, AFGO. Anytime you have an experience and it didn't go the way that you wanted it to go, consider it another frickin' growth opportunity. That's what AFGO stands for.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
I like it too. And it's a nice way of reframing everything.
Yeah.
Because you never know, you come to the fork of the road and you go this way and you should have gone that way, but you discover something down that way you would have never otherwise discovered. So all good ultimately.
Yes. Well, since we're in the new year, and let me first say, you can find Barbara's book on Barbara and Alan's book. Sorry, I don't want to short circuit him. You can find that on Amazon, and it's Fire Up Your Life Now. But also, and I'm assuming you could do this on canyoncoaching.com. They do have a fantastic newsletter that they send out without fail every Sunday night. And it's so short, you can read it. It's got one quote that's going to get you through the whole, sometimes a lot of quotes, but at least one that's going to get you through the week. How can is that on canyoncoaching.com?
Yes, canyoncoaching.com. And right when you enter that site, you will find a place to enter your email address. And boom, you're subscribed. And if at some later point you don't want to be subscribed anymore, you unsubscribe and adios. It's okay. It's okay.
No bad feelings left. Not at all. But the one they sent out, and I love the one that you both sent out for the new year, and it's letting go, just let go. And that's also, I think, like chapter 23 in your book too. And it was just letting go of a lot of things. And one of the things was let go of letting your past define your future, which is kind of what you just said. That was then, and this is now. Keep it moving. Yeah.
And another detail about that is the past doesn't equal the future. The past doesn't equal the future. It's another way of saying that was then and this is now. But a lot of times people feel stuck. I hear this a lot with different clients that I have worked with that have been stuck in a place for a really long time. And then I do use that Dr. Phil quote, how's that working for you? And typically they say, not that great. Yeah. I said, well, how many, it's that old expression, how your head doesn't stop hurting until you stop hitting it against the wall. And you don't realize it until you stop. And sometimes when people try on a new way of thinking and it works so well, then they think, wow, I should have thought about this years ago. But the good news is they thought about it now and not 5 years
Absolutely.
later.
Like I said, don't browbeat yourself for not knowing. Just celebrate that you finally figured it out. It's sometimes people will say, well, I tried that. I already tried that. And it's like, yeah, but you were then, and now you're much wiser. In fact, I have a quote I'm going to share on my desk that I just read all the time. And it's, as of today, you're now wiser than you've ever been, younger than you'll ever be, good grief, and less likely to wish without taking action, to pray without having faith, or to hope without remembering the magic. So where you are now is so fantastic to keep moving and to go back and go, well, I tried that. I mean, you can go back and say, well, that step didn't work. But to say, no, I've already done that. No, that other person did that. You're you now. And you can really, it's a whole new adventure if you want to keep going there. So
you are so right about that, Laurie. And the other thing is that people have, I don't want to interrupt where you're going with the letting go thing, but another secret in our book is ask. How many times do people not ask for what they need because they are fearful of the answer no? I mean, rejection, that's probably the biggest reason. And I always say, if you don't ask, the answer is always no.
exactly. If you don't ask, you don't get. So, but yeah, and that's a hard one too. And that goes, it's self-esteem, and it's like, who am I to ask for this? And it's like, and then you're right, the fear. What if they say no? How do you deal with that?
I wrote a whole article about this recently that was put in a magazine, and it was all about asking for what you need. And the one detail that's so important to remember is that other people like to help. They like to help because it makes them feel good. I remember early in my coaching career, one of the classes with my coach training, I was supposed to interview a successful coach and learn their best tips. So I thought, I'm going to interview lots of them because I love interviewing people for starters, and I really wanted to learn from the best. So I contacted one of the coaches that was one of the #1 coaches in the country, and emailed her. I said, could I interview? And she said, yes, I'll give you 10 minutes. 10 minutes. I thought, all right, I'll take it. So I started the conversation with her, and I started asking her questions. How did you get started? And lots of questions that she probably never gets the opportunity to answer. 45 minutes later, she was in no hurry to get off that phone.
Wow.
So that was so great for me on so many levels. But my biggest takeaway was that people want to be helpful. And she loved talking about herself, and I was just eating it up. So remember that story if you want to ask somebody and you expect the answer to be no, and what a pleasant surprise.
Oh, that's great advice, because you do forget that because you're so wrapped up into you and you're protecting your ego and not overstepping boundaries that you forget that there's another person involved in that, and that people do love to help.
They do. I think putting yourself out of your comfort zone once a day is a wonderful recipe for self-growth. Just in some little way. Just think about a way that you can do something you've been putting off because you're afraid or feeling.
See, now I've got this whole thing, do one thing a day where you're afraid. And now you're telling me do one thing and get out of your comfort zone. I'll just be uncomfortable all day. But I'll be very wise when I finish.
Laurie, you'll do the thing you fear the most, and the death of fear is certain. So you'll be stronger, wiser, and
what is it? 2 birds with 1 stone? I'm probably uncomfortable while I'm being fearful. So okay.
Right. Just for a moment.
That's true. Nothing lasts forever unless you let it and you keep replaying it over and over in your head. So
that's a whole other story too, about how to let go. And what other let go examples were in that thing?
Oh my God. Well, what we were just talking about, let go of being paralyzed by fear. Your biggest risk is doing nothing, which is I don't know. Is that a risk? It is really a risk, as opposed to doing something and learning how far you can go. Yeah. Is that what you were meaning by that?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Let go of perfection. Act. Don't wait for the perfect time.
I love that. How many times have you heard people say, yeah, I'll get there. It's on my to-do list. Yeah, absolutely. I'll get to that. And then 6 months later, how's that working for you? I haven't gotten there yet, but any minute. I hear that so often from people.
or when I retire, or when I go on vacation, or when I get that raise, or I get promotion, or that your future, and I forgot who I'm quoting now, but your future, and it's not mine, your future does not determine your present. It's like, what about now? It's like, okay, you are going to go on vacation, but what were you going to do that you can't do now? So yeah, just don't wait. There is no perfect time. Just,
there isn't a perfect time. It's
no.
not a perfect time for anything. So, and if you jump in and it's not exactly the right time, well, then as we said earlier, you take the other fork in the road and you
Jump out.
go from there. Go from there.
Whoops.
Move forward. Yeah.
Definitely. Let go of relationships that are no longer serving you well. That's a hard one too. I mean, that's a hard one, and it's probably much easier said than done. But I think there has to be a turning point where you go, oh, this is, I think being without this relationship is going to be far more pleasurable than being with it, or just it's hard to get like I don't want gloomy people in my life, and that's crazy to say because we're coaches and of course people have problems, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about people who can't see or can or refuse to see the light in anything. It's just like everything is so dark, and that's certainly something that I try to eliminate. But if these people are like family members or something like that, that's hard to do. It's hard to do.
It is hard to do. It's hard to draw that line in the sand, particularly with a family member, because they're your family. And so I guess the best one can do is establish some boundaries and maybe reduce the contact of the person that's in your family that you can't see eye to eye to. And I know that politically, with so much division in this country within families, is really destroyed families. And that's a really tough challenge about establishing boundaries. But it's still my mother, that kind of thing.
Yeah. And those Thanksgiving dinners have become far more treacherous than they used to be. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think being able to say, I think we're just going to have to agree to disagree on this and move forward and be able to, allow that to be. And I've done that with my own family members. It ultimately will work because you just set the parameters and, you love the person, but you just disagree with some of their things.
Yeah. And you're right. It has definitely enhanced itself and increased and gotten so much deadlier. It's just really, and I can't, we used to be able to negotiate, and at this point there's just sometimes the negotiations aren't on the table. So it's like, I'm right and you're wrong, and as soon as you admit it, we can move along. It's like, so, but it's still limit, as Barbara said, limit or reduce the contact that you have with people that just aren't serving you well. Another one that I like is let go of always saying yes when you want to say no. Oh, I have to constantly remind myself of that, and often I don't until it's after the fact. I've said yes, and it's like, oh, I didn't really want to do that.
And what goes on there, Laurie? I mean, what do you think prevents you from saying no?
I always had the philosophy, and I'm really working on getting rid of it, that if I can provide something, then I should. Who am I not to provide something if I can, that. But then I'm trying to, at least equally bring some self-care on that. But I think what goes on is it's people pleasing. It's like just not wanting to disappoint somebody. And sometimes it's truly empathy or maybe sympathy. It's like, oh, that's so easy. Let me just fix that for them and neglect what I need to do for myself. So that's my constant battle, I think. It's a battle. It's a battle to remember it. Yeah. What do you think goes on? Tell me.
Well, throughout some diamond store psychology, as I say, I think that all of these reactions stem from our childhood. And we had role models in our family that either served you well or didn't serve you well, but they might have been yes people and didn't know how to say no. And that's where this stuff doesn't come from nothing. And being a people pleaser, you didn't start that probably today. You probably were that.
Oh,
As a 5-year-old as well, and all the way on up. So once you can recognize that and have a couple of key phrases in your back pocket, there's one in particular that I love. And I can't tell you how many clients have it on their screensaver or someplace. And the sentence is, I'm so sorry, this just won't work out for me.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that sentence because it requires no other explanation. Just be able to say, and then if they say, well, what about, I'm just so sorry, this won't work out for me. That's the sentence. And then step into that power as well, because, not everything's going to work out for you. And a lot of times when people ask you for something, if you say no in a gentle, loving way, they probably will find somebody else that will be able to help them. And we like to feel like we coaches particularly, we feel like we can save everybody and help everybody, but we don't have to wear that hat of a be all and end all to every single person.
And
So,
it's like the airplane, put your oxygen mask on first, or you're not going to help anybody. So
so I think it's really getting in touch with why am I so, what's driving me here to always say yes when I want to say no.
Yeah.
Figure out that a little bit. I think Cheryl Richardson said, if you don't know the answer to these things, put that question out there before you go to bed, sleep on it. And in the morning, your answer will appear. Yeah. And I love that way of thinking because, once you can understand that, you may be less likely to let it control you for the rest of your life.
Yeah. And one thing that I'm doing as an intermediary step, it's like, well, let me think about it, and then if you do think about it, it's like, no, I don't want to do it. That's not going to, as you say, it's not going to work out for me.
Yeah, I have learned in my old age to say no, and I say it comfortably. I don't have any kind of negative chatter in my brain about that. But my mother, again, everything stems from your childhood, yeah. I believe. And my mother was really strong and had no issues with saying no to absolutely anything and would walk away, and she wouldn't even couch it in more gentle terms. No, thanks. Not even the thanks. No,
not going to do it. Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
So that was my role model. So this is kind of an easy one for me.
Oh, good for you. Lucky. I guess I got to go back and say who wasn't that kind of person in my life. I think I might suspect who it might be. We've got like 50 seconds left. Do you believe that? How do you want to close this out? You have been, I'm going to close it out by saying this is one heck of a book. And Fire Up Your Life. And I think you ought to check that out because it's full of all these quotes and much more. And definitely sign up for Barbara's newsletter at Kenyon, Kenyon. You can see it at the bottom there, kenyoncoaching.com. I can't think of anybody I'd rather ring in a new year than you. Just really, I've been using your book all along, so why not bring it on into 2022? Thank you, Barbara, for being such a fantastic guest. And I certainly hope that you're gonna be coming on back soon because I know you got other things going on.
Anytime you invite me, I'm there. I love talking with you, Laurie. Such a treat.
Thank you so much.